Hey folks, it's Marvin Cash, the host of The Articulate Fly. On this episode, I'm joined by Nils Peterson, owner of West Fork Anglers. Nils shares his fly fishing and music journey, and we discuss his work with the Mayfly Project. I think you're really going to enjoy this one. But before we get to the interview, just a couple of housekeeping items. If you like the podcast, please tell a friend, and please subscribe and leave us a rating and review in the podcatcher of your choice. It really helps us out. And a shout out to this episode's sponsor. This episode is brought to you by our friends at Artisan Angler. If you're looking for a better way to organize your flies, tippet, and tools, you should check out the fly trap at artisananglerllc.com. I've dropped the link in the show notes. They sell direct through Amazon, so you get prime shipping and free returns. It doesn't get any easier than that. Make your time on the water more productive and check out the fly trap today. And we've received several listener questions asking about the best way to support the show. In addition to subscribing in the podcatcher of your choice and leaving us a review, you can also support the show by using our affiliate link when you shop on Amazon. It doesn't cost you a thing, and we receive a small commission on your purchases. You can also become a Patreon patron and make a single or recurring donation. Links to both of these options are in the show notes. There wouldn't be a show without listeners like you, and we appreciate your support more than you know. Now, on to our interview. Well, Nils, welcome to the Articulate Fly.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to our conversation, and we have a tradition on the Articulate Fly. We like to ask all of our guests to share their earliest fishing memory.
So it's interesting. I thought a little bit about this because I'd listened to some others here. I got so many fishing memories, but kind of the earliest one, I think the ones that had the most impact on me is as an angler, we're walking two different kind of times where I was walking with my dad in my family. One was walking the docks of the Oregon Inlet Fishing Center at Cape Hatteras and looking at the day's catch. And, I was probably 3 or 4 years old. And I can just remember seeing these huge fish laid out. I have no idea what kind of fish they were, but I just thought it was really awesome. And the other would have been walking next to him in the surf as he learned to fish in the surf for whatever there was, and which became an obsession of mine as I got older and wanted to be a better angler than my brother. And fishing also became a babysitter for me at that age. So those are some of my earliest ones.
Yeah, very, very neat. When did you come to the dark side of fly fishing?
Oh, the dark side. So that kind of happened for me when my parents moved from Western Kentucky, to Western North Carolina, and they built a house on the trout stream. That was about 1985. And I'd never seen a trout before. I'd only seen them on TV. Like I definitely watched Kurt Gowdy and Joe Brooks fish somewhere together. So I was always enamored and fascinated by trout and trout fishing and fly fishing. And my dad had this bamboo fishing rod that was given to him as a wedding gift. And it sat in our closet for forever. And, I decided we were going to try fly fishing then. And so I went and bought a reel and some other stuff at one of our local little shops and, tried my best to catch a trout in 1986, 5 or 6. And it didn't really happen until after college in about 1990.
Interesting. And, who are some of the folks that mentored you on your fly fishing journey and what did they teach you?
Well, so really I had these two guys named Bill. And this is kind of a long story, and I'll try to keep it as short as I can. But so in 1990, I graduated from college, and I moved back to the Black Mountain and Montreat area. And I went to work for this guy named Bill Harkness. And Bill owned a drinking establishment called the Town Pump on Cherry Street in Black Mountain. And I'd known Bill. I had been in a band, and I had played music in his bar. I'd played open mic nights at his bar, and I'd snuck in there to see other people when I was underage. Bill asked me if I needed a job, and I told him yes. And probably, a month or so into it, Bill asked me if I wanted to go try fly fishing. And he took me out for my first fly fishing trip. And Bill really was kind of a key mentor for me. He taught me all kinds of stuff, not only everything about small stream fly fishing, but Bill, I would say, is probably one of the foremost unknown tight line anglers on the earth, because we were doing tight line angling and tight line nymphing and basically check nymphing, I think, before it was invented, but I could be wrong about that. But about 1990 or so, we were using a really heavy fly and tight lining it through holes in small streams, which was really cool to me. And I just loved being out in the woods. And Bill taught me fly tying, and he taught me a thing or two just about, being out in the woods fishing. And, he showed me places where I could go work a little harder and get to some really awesome spots to fish that nobody knew about. So some days that might have been crawling on your belly through rhododendrons for 45 minutes to get to one little creek that ran off of Mount Mitchell somewhere. And sometimes that meant you crawl back out the same way. And so that was just incredibly awesome. And then the other guy, whose name was also Bill, his name was Bill Noonan. And Bill's a guitar player and been on the music scene in Charlotte for a long time. He was heavy in the music scene in Black Mountain then, played music at the bar. I sat in with Bill's band a little bit here and there, but Bill was also along on a lot of those adventures with Bill Harkness. And so those guys just, Bill Harkness mentored Bill Noonan, and Bill Noonan mentored me. And then, it's this big circle of this just awesome, like, sharing of information and camaraderie and having some good times together on the water.
Yeah, absolutely. And, fast forward a little bit, and now you own your own guide service, Westport Anglers.
Mm-hmm.
When did you get the guide bug?
Well, so, wow, there's so many good questions here, Marvin. So really about 1996 or 7, it's a little blurry to me. When I moved to Boone, basically, I moved to Boone to work for the Wildlife Resources Commission. I was doing some angler surveys or creel surveys for them at the time, and was on a 1-year contract. And, I talked to anglers all day long, and some of them would ask me where the fish were. And I wasn't supposed to tell them, but I wound up helping them out more than anything. That's really when I got kind of the bug, if you want to call it a bug. But the desire to help people out was certainly there for me in about 1996.
Yeah, very, very neat. And so how did you break into the guide game?
Well, kind of that same year, since I talked to so many anglers, I also talked to fly shops. And so I was kind of a friend of the fly shop that I went to work for. And when my gig with the state was over that year, they kind of said, "Hey, would you like to come work in the shop and do a few wade trips?" And, the next thing I know, I'm buying a raft and, I'm rowing down the river, and, it became something different. And also about the third week I worked in the shop, I met my wife. And so, and I didn't know it then, but I was going to get married to her about a year and a half, maybe almost 2 years later. So, pretty neat there. Pretty neat way to meet your wife on a guide trip and through the fly shop.
Yeah, you're actually the second person I know that happened to. Who were you guiding for out in Boone?
So that was Fosco Fishing. We were an Orvis shop then. I think they still are now. But we were there were 3 of us there that were guiding, and just super fun. And still friends with them all, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, super neat. And so who are some of the folks that mentored you on your guide journey, and what did they teach you?
Yeah, sorry. So my friend Ollie Smith, really, I can kind of count to Ollie for mentoring me both times that I became a guide in my life, because I did leave the business for 10 or 12 years. But Ollie, was encouraging to me. lots about teaching style and just helping me and encouraging me to develop my own teaching style. And some of that is just talking to people, right? So, and just, relaxing and being yourself, I think were huge kind of milestones for me, which helped my trips go better, which helped me, just be a better guide to other people coming on the boat or on way trips. Ollie really, Ollie's kind of an icon in North Carolina fly fishing. If anyone listening hasn't ever met or heard of Ollie, I'm sure you're Googling him right now. He's been on every Carolina Outdoor Journal about fly fishing, just about that Joe Alba's ever done. So pretty amazing guy. And just, not only does he as a mentor have the ability to, help you break stuff down and, become better, but he also has the ability to give you a bunch of grief about stuff. And, and that becomes a mutual grief giving, which is a lot of fun. So we have this back and forth even today. That's still pretty awesome. And sometimes it's between boats on the river, I'm on my trip, he's on his trip, and we're giving it back and forth, and we sound like an old married couple. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
Pretty neat.
Yeah, absolutely. And so tell me a little bit about your guide service.
So we, my wife and I, Isabel, started West Fork Anglers about 10 years ago, about 2012, when I was looking to exit the building and woodworking business and to do something different with my life. And so I kind of started back really because Ollie Smith called me. He said, "Hey, man, I need some help with a trip. Would you please come help me?" And I, of course, told him I would. And it went well for me. And I kind of saw, if you will, the light at the end of the tunnel and where I could go and where I could head and really where I wanted to be. And so, 10 years ago till now, it's been a great journey with some people. I'm on the water full time now, which is really wonderful, and just really love being connected to the resource that I got in. And it's just an awesome thing. We love it a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you're guiding, probably around the Watauga. What are some of the other drainages that you like to fish?
Yeah, so we're, guiding from the headwaters of the Watauga River all the way down into East Tennessee on the tailwaters. We're guiding on the South Holston River, and as many different styles of fishing we can do over there. So I do tightline nymphing some on small streams with people. And then, of course, just, regular fly fishing out of our drift boat on both tailwaters over there. And it's a lot of fun. We have some great water to offer people over there.
Yeah, very neat. And so tell me a little bit about what a day on the water with you is like, and kind of how your program is different. And it's not different, good or bad. It's just different from what other people do.
So, I think I've approached my job as a guide much like a teacher approaches a student, right? So, I want to make sure, number one, that you're comfortable with everything, because there's so many moving parts in fly fishing that, I kind of break it down for people at the beginning of the day, what the day is going to be like. And I don't sugarcoat anything. So if you ask me how the fishing is, I'm going to actually tell you how the fishing is, or, hey, you're either going to work for your fish or it's going to be pretty easy. But usually when you say it's pretty easy, it becomes pretty hard. So anyhow, I kind of go over the conditions for the day with people. We meet pretty early. We're going to get to the water early most days. Sometimes we get to see some sort of sunrise on the river, which is really neat. And then we just kind of break it down wherever you're at. I like to figure out what your skill set is, where you fish. You may have fished with another guy that I know. So I like to get to know you while we're kind of going through some of the basics, beginnings of the day, rigging rods and stuff like that. And then we get to the section of water we're fishing, and we get fishing. I do a really nice lunch for people. And as the day progresses, Marvin, what I hope to do with someone is, I break kind of what we're working on down, and then I build upon it for the rest of the day. And so it is I want to call it a complete package. That sounds a little weird, but it's a complete kind of breaking down and building back up of what we have to accomplish for the day, which is hopefully catching a few fish, but also learning a lot of stuff. So I cover stuff from entomology to rig changes to, water changes, flow changes, all that kind of stuff. And really, hopefully people kind of soak all of it in. And at the end of the day, I hope that you've had some foundation and been given some confidence and encouragement to be fishing on your own in your favorite water or a different spot, or even in the same spot that we fished today. That's kind of my goal. If that's different, I don't really know what other people do. So hopefully that's a little bit different, right? But I mean, I just really try to approach it, where I am connected to this resource in a way that's kind of deep and meaningful. And I would like you to have that energy channeled to you. I know that sounds a little bit hokey, but there is a connection that guides have with their resource. And I want to share that connection, that deep connection and it has to do with fly fishing as well. Fly fishing is intertwined in that. I want you to experience what I experience every day through just all the gifts that I've been given from the river.
Yeah, it's very neat too, because that's to me is the huge advantage. Like, even if you're like an expert angler, if you go fish different water and you've got someone who's out there, full time like you are, that river is never the same, right? Ever.
Right.
And just to know, what's going on, and and to really make it, so much easier to get on fish.
Mm-hmm. Sure. And, I think, I try to have the water dialed in before you get there. In the perfect world, right? But that doesn't always happen. So sometimes we're dialing in together. It's, real time, and conditions change all the time. And so, I think that's the biggest thing that, we face from day to day is like, hey, these little changes, like, we had great sun for the morning today, and then for the rest of the afternoon, it got a little bit cloudy. And when the sun was straight on the water, we did really good. But when we had the sun that was broken by the clouds, we just didn't do very good. So it was just a different day. So
yeah, it's super interesting. And tell me a little bit. I know you're guiding year round. What does the arc of your guide season kind of look like? And then we can start now. Like, for me, fall is one of my favorite times to be on the water.
Sure. We are fishing, right now as many days as we can book, because there's going to come a day when we're kind of slow. But we're in that kind of fall fishing season where the brown trout are getting ready to spawn. And that's really fun. If we could get some rain, that would help everything out. But, fall is a great time to be on the water. You do have to be prepared for layers. So, we are fishing some days and pretty cold in the morning, starting in the 30s, 20s, and then winding up in the 60s in the afternoon. It's pretty great. And we'll move into January and February, where we get a little bit slower after the holidays. I still do trips. I don't hold anybody to a day. We kind of wait and see what the weather's going to do. And, if it's snowing 6 inches at my house here in Linville, we're not going to the river. So, January, February, we get kind of our nastier weather. And then we get around to March and we start getting some bugs on the water. Starting with some blue wing olives actually through the winter time, but also in March we'll have some blue wings, and then great caddis hatches in April, and all the way into May with some sulfur hatches starting. And then we're kind of into the thick of, a little bit of dry fly fishing, but mainly nymph fishing for the summer. And then kind of turn around back into the fall, late September, where we're back to maybe a few bugs on the water, and then kind of back to where we are today, which is almost, I guess it's November 1st, I guess, today. So, we're almost to that point where people are kind of starting to not think about fishing anymore, but it's actually when it gets really good for quite about 6 or 8 weeks here. It's going to be pretty good. So
yeah, it's funny you say that because I like it when it's not crowded.
right. We all so I was on the river today. There were like 3 boats. It was awesome.
Yeah.
So it's when I like being out there, and I don't mind having my 25 or 30 best friends on the water, because I try to be super respectful of all those guys, and I like meeting new people and being around other people. But it's nice to have it to yourself to some extent.
Yeah, I'm kind of one of those guys that'll drive from Charlotte to Brevard to fish the Davidson in the wintertime when it's 38 or 42 degrees and it's raining, because I know I'm going to have my run of the show.
You go wherever you want to.
Yeah. And so, one of the things I always like to do when I have guides on the podcast is to ask them, what they think the secret is to being a good guide.
Well, I think there are lots of secrets, but I think the main one for me is I try to stay humble, and I try to be present with people. Being humble for me means, I don't take anything for granted. I just, the fishing was good yesterday, but that doesn't mean it's going to be good tomorrow. And so how am I going to deal with that? And, nobody likes having a slow day of fishing, but you're going to have them. And so you just have to kind of be humble and know that that's going to happen to you. And then being present with people, I think is, just listening to your customers and getting to know them. And, that's one of my secrets to success, is taking care of people and knowing about them, and, really just being there with them. Sometimes, you lose a nice fish, you don't just pat them on the back and get going again. Sometimes you're just quiet in the boat, and then you process together. So, humble and present. Those are my 2 answers.
Yeah, very neat. And a kind of a related question is, I always like to learn kind of what guides think the biggest misconception folks have about the life of a fishing guide is.
Wow. Well, there are a lot. There are a lot. I think. For me, I think a big misconception is that I don't have it all together. When I show up for a trip, I'm turned on. So I'm ready to be your entertainer for the day, and to serve your lunch, and to be kind of, your hospitality person for the day. And I'm, branded up in a clean shirt and a clean pair of pants, and I might have shaved, but I look nice, but that doesn't mean that I have it all together. And the boat looks nice and the truck's clean, that's great. But I'm still wondering, I might be recovering from yesterday where I had a slow day. And so, I think that, I don't have it all together, and I'm not perfect, and I can't make the fish eat. I wish I could, but, I think that's a big misconception, though, is that, we have, and not having it all together means that I have a messy life here at home. I have 2 children, I have a wife, I have a crazy dog. I have all that going on. And so some days, I get to the river after, I've had to walk my dog a mile so that she'll, take care of her business before I leave her for 8 hours if there's nobody here at home. And some days, I've left without doing something for my wife, and I feel bad about it. And I get to my trip, and I, have got to kind of turn my personality on to come meet somebody new. And so, we're not as good looking and as clean as we appear to be, I guess.
Yeah, fair enough. And, rumor on the street is that you were a rock star before you started guiding. You want to tell us a little bit about your music career?
Oh, man. Well, so it was a short one. But I started playing guitar in college. I used to sneak into the town pump when I was younger, underage, and listen to guys play blues and all kinds of stuff. And I just loved watching people play guitar. And so I wanted to learn. And it also was a great way for me to get my GPA up, which I needed some help with. And so I started playing guitar, and, wound up doing some open mic nights a few summers while I was at home. And I had a kid whose family stayed down the street, and we decided we would start a band one summer while we were working together. And so we started playing music in downtown Black Mountain, either at McDibb's or at the Gray Eagle or at the town pump. And that's just kind of how it started. And we played around town a little bit and played a few gigs at weddings. I traveled to a couple of fraternity parties to play, but that was really about it. It's a lot of fun. I was a musician before I was a fly fisherman, and they kind of go together just a little bit. And this is maybe another question you'll have for me here in a second, but it really kind of when I became a fly fisherman and a musician, like the lifestyle fit, because I could go make some money playing music at night and go fish the next day. It's pretty awesome. And sometimes my friend Bill Noonan would be playing down the street at the town pump, and I'd be playing up the street at McDibb's, and we would switch with each other on breaks. And so I'd go look at him while I was on break, and he'd come look at me while I was on break. It was kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting too, because I mean, to your point, there are a lot of musical people in fly fishing. I mean, like the number of people I know that like play bluegrass or, or like Skip Morris was a jazz guitarist. I mean, it's kind of interesting that you find so many musicians. You have any kind of thoughts about why that might be the case?
Well, they're both art forms. And so I think that, there's a sense of, having some expression in both the places through fly tying and fly casting, and also in learning music and playing music. For me, kind of where the two kind of merge for me is that when I used to play live music, there's a little bit of a kind of nervous energy at the beginning of the gig, right? Where you're kind of not necessarily pacing, but, you're excited about what's going to happen. And you get to you kind of get that pit in your stomach until you play the first song, and you get the first song done. And, the crowd, you're starting to feed off some of that energy from the crowd, right? And then you get the second song done, and then you get into this groove where you are performing for people, and that energy from the crowd is coming back to you. And it's just really just kind of awesome thing. And similar things happen for me, Marvin, when I guide people. So I had that nervous energy, that same kind of feeling before I start a trip with people. And then, we might get a couple of fish to the boat, and it starts to get easier for me. And, I get relaxed, the people get relaxed, that energy flows in the boat. It's just awesome. And we have a great time. People laugh at my jokes. That's the one time people actually will laugh at my jokes. And then, see, I got you laughing.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, so there's similarities between the two for me. Like that's where I kind of hit that kind of sweet spot, is that they're both, I'm not going to tell you that guiding is a performance, but it is almost like a performance in the fact that energy level is there some days. If that makes any sense. It may not make any sense at all.
No, I get it, right? Because I mean, it's, as an angler in a boat with a guide, I'm kind of nervous too, right? Because I always I always look at it like, I think of myself as I try to be an extension of the guide, right? So I want to do what I'm told, right?
Sure.
And sometimes that works better. And, sometimes you either catch a fish or you have a boat beer or something, and you kind of get that worked out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you weren't busy enough, you're also the program lead for the Mayfly project in Boone. And, some folks may not have heard of the Mayfly project. You want to kind of let folks know kind of what the national program is? Right. So the Mayfly project is a 501(c) that is in a lot of states. And the Mayfly project basically mimics the life cycle of a Mayfly. So there's 5 stages. We take our kids who are kids in foster care or who have been adopted out of foster care through kind of this beginning phase of not knowing anything about fly fishing, through all the way kind of the adult phase of life of the Mayfly, where they've learned to be a completely self-sufficient angler. And we do that through mentoring, using fly fishing as a mentoring tool to learn about the local environment, to learn about themselves and how they interact with the environment, how they can heal themselves by being out in nature, and lots of other really cool, awesome stuff. Sometimes that's aquatic and entomology. Sometimes that's learning about aquatic invasive species. but it's all that stuff that's kind of in their local ecosystem and going on. And we use a fly rod as a tool to kind of get them outside and away from things that they've experienced in their life through no fault of their own. It's just really awesome. It's really cool. And I work with a great team of mentors too. This is nothing I do by myself. There's a team here that's assembled that really works very hard to provide awesome outings for kids where they are learning something every time.
Yeah, very, very neat. You want to tell us a little bit more about your specific program in Boone?
Yeah, so we for the last, let's see, I've been involved since 20. Oh wow, I have to count years now. This might be tough, but about 4 or 5 years now, I've been involved in the Boone program, and we've been serving some kids at group homes. So that's one population we serve, and then for the last 2 years, we've had kids that have been adopted out of foster care, and so we've not only been serving the children, but we've also been serving their parents to some degree. So we like the adopted parents to have a kind of a stake in the program. So we encourage them to come and listen and watch and participate to some degree. And on the fifth outing, when we're giving our kids at the end of the project, all the kids get their own fishing gear. So that's kind of a neat thing for parents to experience with their kids. And some of the parents who may not have their own fishing gear, sometimes they receive some of our donated rods or something like that we've been given. So we're encouraging the parents to fish with their kids afterwards. And on the fifth outing for the last couple of years, we've actually done a float trip for the kids in East Tennessee. And so through working with some other guides who are mentors in the program, and through working with guides that just wanted to help me out, we've been able to kind of have kind of a big kind of final outing for the kids, which has been really awesome.
Yeah, that's really great. And, if folks want to, financially support your work, or if they want to point a foster child in your direction, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Sure. So, the absolute best way is to have a personal conversation with me. So, I love talking to people about this. So you can call me, and I can give my cell phone number. It's 828-964-8581. It's also my business phone number. You please leave me a message. I most likely will not have cell service when you call, but I love talking to people. You can leave me a message, send me a text message. You can also look on all of our socials and kind of hit us up through there as well. But the best way is the telephone call. I'd love to talk to anybody about it.
Yeah, and I'll also make a point to kind of drop all the social stuff and all the links in the show notes, and
you can put my email on there too. That'd be great. So that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I'll take care of all that for you. And Nils, before I let you go this evening, is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners?
I think it's just super important to be outside. It is so important for everyone to have some time outside to kind of relax and have a different experience than where you're going today for work, or where you're going tomorrow for work, or what you got to go do with your family. But 5 minutes outside does wonders for my attitude all the time, and I'm sure it would help everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think truer words were ever spoken. And, I also know too from talking to you down in Charleston that you've got some upcoming kind of events and appearances promoting, the Mayfly Project, as well as probably your outfitting business.
Sure. So what we have coming up is a casting clinic. We're working actually with the Speckled Trout Outfitters in Blowing Rock. So the Mayfly Project, they're actually donating some money to us. They're doing a casting clinic near the Middle Fort Greenway in Boone this coming weekend. That is the 5th, and that's coming up. Other ways people can support, we have Giving Tuesday coming up, which is always huge for us. So there'll be a Facebook fundraiser there, which will be on my socials. and the Mayfly Project socials. And Facebook matches money. So that's the great thing, for whatever we raise, for whatever people give, it's matched by Facebook and up to a certain amount. And so the Mayfly Project actually does pretty great through that. And that's a national fundraiser. And of course, I've got links here. We're going to do another Giving Tuesday for our own local project as well. So you can take a look at my socials for all of that. And that's huge for us. We raise money for our kids directly in our program through that. And it's big.
Yeah. And also too, right. If for the national donations, you can designate your funds to Boone, correct?
You can designate your funds to Boone. You can go on our website, on the Mayfly Project website. You can just go to the project location. You can pick the Boone project location and you can donate directly to the project. And so each project's got a page. Some of our mentors have a bio up there, so you can read a little bit about who we are. I've got a bio up there. It's pretty neat. Go look around. You can, also buy some stuff to make a donation. So there's some great stuff for the national fundraiser. You can buy a T-shirt or a hat. That's really awesome. At our thing on the 5th, we're actually going to have some hats and T-shirts for sale. So you can hit us up out there if you want one of our awesome logos, which were done by our logo T-shirts, which are done by Andrea Larco, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and also too, not to forget, you can give your time and you can be a mentor.
Right. So we always need mentors. So one of our kind of main things in the Mayfly Project is we always want to make sure that there are 2 mentors per kid, and so that keeps us just all transparent. And there's just always 2 people there to help a kid with what we're doing, and so we always need more mentors. And we've got a great group now, but nothing's forever. So we always need new people to come along, and I'm happy to talk to anybody that wants to come be a mentor.
Absolutely. Well, Nils, I really appreciate you taking some time out of your evening, because I know when we booked this, you were telling me you've got a guide trip bright and early tomorrow morning. So I really appreciate you taking the time and spending a little bit of time with me.
Well, thank you for having me, Marvin. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. Take care. Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed that as much as we enjoyed bringing it to you. And please consider supporting the great work that Nils is doing with the Mayfly Project. The links are in the show notes. Tight lines, everybody.